Oh, you're fine. Huh? It's so cold in here. Yeah, I've had this blanket on me for days.
Why do you even have this cold room?
I mean, it's not my fault. I can't change it.
I'm just saying, why do they give the electric in the cold room?
I don't know. And like, it's only in the last week that it's been this cold. And I don't know what to do about it. I was like, should I?
Have been cold, and it's like,
Ugh.
it's an uphill battle of trying not to fall asleep while you take this off.
Yeah. It's tough. I just. No, I don't think she does. Hi.
Oh, you are here. Yes. I told you happy birthday at lunch.
Oh, happy birthday, David! I'm glad you said that because Marilyn's birthday was this weekend. I'm gonna make sure that I ask her how it was. Was that in response to how cold it is?
Yes. But I'm watching.
Hi. What are you doing here? Troy! Come be in this class. Come be in this class. Because I miss you. Troy, don't go. Don't go, Troy. Oh, I love him. Oh, I'm going to be so sad when he graduates. Mm-hmm. I should fail him on purpose. He's been threatening my life for 5 years. Why is he why is he the one I'm going to miss? His senior quote, no lie, like I can show it to you on this thing, is, where is it? He's so weird. Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in.
Wow.
I know. It's not even true. I've never threatened him.
Wow.
I should probably like double check with maybe like Nykirk and say like, is it okay?
Say no. Oh my gosh.
Here's another one that I was like, is this fine to say?
I would say no.
Okay.
I would just stay on this side of the.
I'm gonna just send him a screenshot of those two and be like, should we get other quotes from them?
I would say yes.
She'll be mad about it, but
I mean,
I think his is so funny and like, it's obviously not true.
yeah, it is.
Troy's senior quote is, Miss McClellan said she was going to kill me for some reason, so that's nice. Like, obviously, I've never threatened to kill him. He's threatened to kill me lots of times, but it's very funny. I know. All those seniors are like really starting to give me a hard time about graduating and like how they're going to make me cry. They what?
I know you can't do anything.
I know, but they're just like giving me a hard time about like how sad I'm gonna be and like, and I am, but I'm like, let's not dwell on it. We've got like 12 weeks left. Kind of. I'm waiting for some people to get in this room. How's your day going? I know. Right? I feel that way sometimes too. In this class.
Overall,
yeah. It's been okay. I know. It's been fine. It was like, I don't know. I was really annoyed at lunch with like middle schoolers. It's just because they're so loud and annoying.
They're so middle schoolery.
Yes, they are. I was literally like, so many people went outside and there were like a handful of people left. I was like, how is it louder with the three of you in here than with everybody else in here?
I'm still very middle schoolery.
Oh, Marilyn, how was your birthday?
Ooh, Marilyn, how's your birthday?
It was good. I worked from 9 to 4, and then I got home and I had a facial.
Oh, nice.
scheduled. So I got a facial and a back facial, and then we went to dinner.
Where'd you go to dinner?
Grimaldi's
Nice.
pizza.
Oh, Sarah took me to Wild Olive for the first time.
Oh, my.
Woo!
That's some good stuff.
That's good stuff. David, are you doing anything for your birthday? Today's his birthday.
I know.
Probably not. But yesterday, I think it was my cousin. He got me like boxing.
Oh, that's cool. Nice, nice. Everybody's just growing up so fast.
Everyone's birthday is March.
I mean, it's like a week away.
Hang on, don't tell me when your birthday is.
Someone can powerful.
I'm not.
She's not in college.
April
She should go.
28th. Am I right?
April 29th.
Oh my God, I was so close. I was so close. I remember because you asked me several times last year if I'd make you a pecan pie for your birthday. And I might have, but it like we weren't in school by then. So I have made a pecan pie. I'm pretty good at baking, I'm not gonna lie. And like last year, I haven't done it this year, but last year I wrote all my students' birthdays in my planner. I would like bring cookies or something for them on their birthday. I haven't done it this year just because like half of you are not here and you might feel left out because you don't get anything for your birthday.
My room is kind of warm.
Can we see it?
I mean, really, like it's so cold in here.
I mean, it's comfortable.
I'm comfortable now because I have a blanket in my lap, but overall, and that's why like I'm wearing like a really short sleeve dress, but I was like, you're gonna need a sweater today because your room is so cold.
Yeah.
I gotta like plan out outfits now. I didn't open my window. Is it nice enough outside? Oh, well, that might be. It's such a hassle to go outside now. But let's see, how warm is it? 67. We can open a window and see if it gets warmer.
It's, no, I just came from outside. We had a fire drill.
It's really warm.
But what is supposed to?
Yeah, I don't know that they're supposed to.
I don't want to.
I would think suspendable, but not expulsion. Well, it's very dangerous. I'd get fired if you did it in here. Okay, let's do stuff. Let me get plugged in. Today, I'm going to give you, I believe, your final out of class essay assignment. Yeah, I know, but we won't have any more out of class essays. We will have, once we move into Q4, and I'll talk more about this the week after spring break because we have like 1 week before Q4 starts, or Q3 ends like the Thursday we get back, which is weird. But when we move into Q4, we will have a weekly schedule, and we'll have 1 day a week in class where we write an essay. So like 1 week we'll do rhetorical analysis, the next week we'll do argumentative, the next week we'll do synthesis. And that should be enough time. I mean, I haven't looked about like early release, e-learning, whatever. I haven't looked at any of that stuff yet. It smells weird outside.
Yeah, it does.
It smells like something's on fire.
What is all of it?
I don't think it is on fire. Don't be concerned. But what? Yeah. No, it's really not. So we'll do one a week, but I don't think we'll have any more out of school, like out of class essays to write. And then last week when I was talking about it, I think I'd already signed off with some of you guys, but I think it was you and Marilyn were still in here, and I said, would it be better to not write on Fridays?
Yeah.
And you said yes, so we will not write on Fridays. In fact, I think I have my weekly schedule planned out already. Where's AJ? Let me rearrange my stuff so that so, and I will give you some time to get started on this essay today, and then also you've got a little bit more time with it, like over a week, so that's nice. Huh? Oh, he let you have it?
Yes.
You're in art class, right?
Yes.
Okay. Remind me to ask you something before we leave today. I don't want to ask right now because I don't want to lose momentum here, but huh? Don't worry about it. That was why I didn't want to ask because now my brain went off of what I'm doing. Okay, Canvas. I know. They're cute.
Oh, Mia's leaving. No.
I know. She's graduating a year early.
Really?
Yeah, she's supposed to be in your grade, but she and Jack Brandon are graduating a year early.
Oh, well, somebody can.
Yeah. Shoot, before I give you this assignment, there was one more thing I was going to tell you about it. But I lost my train of thought. It'll probably come back to me when we're looking over it together. So I'm going to share my screen here.
I'm finally getting the hang of how to make old coffee.
Oh, good. Okay, so this essay is the Zombie Apocalypse Synthesis essay. And when you go into it, it's just going to have a link to this.
Wait, zombie apocalypse?
Zombie Apocalypse. Everybody's here today, right? Yeah, everybody's here. Power School is down, so I'm having to take attendance manually. I just got to write it down so I don't forget. And put it back in whenever Power School decides to get its act together. Shoot, I feel like the thing I was going to tell you all was super important, but it's not coming back to me. Okay, so you're going to synthesize at least 3 sources, which I'll explain a little bit more in just a second, and write an essay in which you discuss the issues which should be most important to consider when making decisions about surviving the coming zombie apocalypse, since it's inevitably going to happen. So we have some sources here, but on your own, you're going to find 2 more sources that would be appropriate to use in a synthesis essay of this topic. And I want to be clear about this because this might be a little bit confusing. We have 3 sources here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and we'll look at them together momentarily. You're going to find 2 more, but you only have to cite 3. So you might wind up using just the ones that I've already provided to you, but you still need to find 2 more. You need to have 5 sources, but quote at least 3. You can quote all 5 if you choose, but you're finding at least 2 more sources that would be appropriate for this. I also just want to point out the fact, like, there's so many like zombie shows, zombie movies, things like that, that Well, Walking Dead is so good. Well, it was so good for like 8 seasons. They're not real. You could cite those things. In fact, in a previous year, I did have a student cite The Walking Dead. And as long as you're citing it appropriately, totally fine. Your mom did?
Yeah.
They did. There's a lot of violence and gore. Mm, but wrestling's not real either. So what does it matter? Yeah. Okay. I see. So when you find your two sources, you'll just include them at the bottom of your paper. You don't really need to worry about like citing these in MLA. You can just list the author or website and the title and a link and just say like in a sentence what it's about. So let's look together at the 3 sources that we already have. This first one is from something called Zombies, Vampires, and Philosophy, New Life for the Undead. I would think this is probably a book, considering it says it's edited by so-and-so, pages 211 to 220, but it's called When They Aren't Eating Us, They Bring Us Together, Zombies and the American Social Contract. And I think it's probably like has a lot to do with the fact that whether you like zombie stuff or not, it's very prevalent these days. Like zombie stuff is kind of having a heyday. It might be sort of on the tail end of it now, but like pretty much because Walking Dead is like it's been on for ages now, but there's still a lot of movies being made. So we're a zombie-centric culture. Okay. George Romero's series of zombie films, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and Land of the Dead, engages in one of the fundamental questions of the last 2 centuries in American political philosophy. Which is the superior position, individualism or communitarianism, standing on your own or having a community? Individualism is the idea that the success of a society depends on self-reliance, individual hard work, ingenuity, and entrepreneurship. The individualist America is a place where individuals can reach their full potential unfettered by overreaching government or the constraints of traditional societal norms and hierarchies. In essence, a place where the individual shapes society, not vice versa. My door is like floating open and closed. Individualists tend to reject communism, for example, because it limits individual freedom, especially by placing too much emphasis on the needs of other people. Communitarianism is the idea that societies prosper most and best when citizens cooperate. The civil rights movement in America succeeded on this account because many citizens worked together to put the needs of the society above their own individual desires. Communitarians embrace neighborhood connectedness and group activities. They believe that a good society results from a sense of community and self-sacrifice, according to John F. Kennedy's famous dictum, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I'm wondering if by this point y'all are like, what does this have to do with zombies? I promise it does. Individualism and communitarianism present 2 dominant American political tendencies that have been fundamentally at odds since the founding of the nation. Both these strains are at the heart of the American social contract. Indeed, much of American political philosophy is committed to the ideal of individualism and the notion that one person standing alone can fight the torrents. Our political history and literary culture is littered with lone actor hero types who are represented as saving the day by behaving in a strictly American, individualistic fashion. Some political philosophers, however, have argued that individualism is not necessarily the best thing for democracy, as it has increasingly led to detachment on the part of citizens from each other. The less people feel connected by their social contract, the more likely they are to allow their sovereignty to slip away. Should they be self-reliant and only look out for themselves, or should they connect with others and develop an ideal of the common good? I argue that Romero's Dead films evoke the problem of what should be at the heart of an American social contract, and that they implicitly advocate communitarianism over individualism. According to Thomas Hobbes' theory of the social contract, people are brought together because they're terrified. The characters inside the besieged farmhouse in Night of the Living Dead demonstrate how community can be formed simply out of fear. Most of the characters have never met before the terrifying events of that evening bring them together. They quickly form a governing apparatus in which two male antagonists, Ben and Cooper, vie for a position of power while a horde of zombies advances outside. Ben is the hero of the communitarian position, working from the very start to save as many people as possible. He tries to make the farmhouse as safe as possible for himself and the traumatized, useless Barbara, even when she does nothing to help him. He exemplifies the social contract by drawing all parts of his community into the protective equation. On the other hand, Cooper, who is soon found hiding in the basement with his wife, child, and two other persons, embodies the individualist position of every man for himself. He admits openly that even though he heard screaming upstairs, he refused to risk his own life by coming up to help. He also advocates not going to the central community location prescribed by emergency broadcasts in favor of maintaining the relative safety of their basement fortress. Ben argues that if they must remain in the house, it's safer upstairs. So with this one, a tack you could sort of take here is, since your goal is to establish and argue what you think is most important to consider when thinking about the upcoming zombie apocalypse, if you wanted to argue that having a community of people is one of the most important things, this could be a good source. You could also use this if you wanted to argue the opposite, that like being able to survive on your own is one of the most important things. I feel like it already feels better in here from putting these windows open. Like I feel like I could take my sweater off for the first time all day. I'm not gonna yet, but okay. So the second one, I love the title of this. She's not your mother anymore. She's a zombie. Zombies' value and personal identity. Again, it looks like it's probably a book. Hard to say, but it's got an editor. Pages 27 to 37. I would think book. Also, for the record, you can. It's fine when you're citing these sources to say either source B or Thompson. Either way you want to do that. All right. 3 general justifications for zombie termination appear to be as follows. A, they are or are very close to being brain dead. B, because of their radically altered life goals, what personality is left lacks the same personal identity as the original individual, releasing us from prior obligations. And C, after zombification, they are usually homicidal, cannibalistic killers. Each one of these justifications, however, poses a philosophical conundrum to our desire for absolute and sharp distinctions. If zombies are only partly brain dead, how much is left, and does this matter? Is what remains of the personality of zombies after zombification an altered personal identity? If we remove the homicidal tendency by training the individuals, as in Day of the Dead, or chaining the individuals up, as in 28 Days Later and Shaun of the Dead, that one's funny. Presumably, the justification for termination on the grounds of self-defense is removed. However, we're still left with questions as to how we should treat these individuals. Should we use them in the service industry jobs or as entertainment on game shows as depicted in Shaun of the Dead? Do we have an obligation to terminate them out of a respect for their past identity? If your spouse is zombified, should you divorce him or her? Even if we grant the status of dead to the zombie, issues arise concerning our perceived obligations to the body alone. Obligations to the body are instrumental to the Marines' absolute commitment to leave no man behind, meaning by man, a dead body, even at the potential expense of other living persons. This obligation is apparent in the massive investment humans have in rituals of burial and cremation. If one takes literally a hoped-for resurrection of the body, the initial mutilation required in finishing off the body often leaves little of the original. Nobody usually stays behind to bury a decapitated zombie. The sharpest moral challenge often arises when a character is faced with the realization of the altered state of a loved one and the choice of either terminating the loved one who is thus transformed or being transformed oneself. In Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the girlfriend's personal identity is substituted when her psyche is replaced by an alien psyche in a physically identical body. The father of the girl, and 28 days later, gets the disease as an infected droplet of blood falls into his eye. Ew. In Shaun of the Dead, Shaun is confronted with the required termination of his mother, whose zombie transformation is hardly great given her somewhat mindless previous state. Finally, there's the question of normal persons similar to zombies. Once sharp distinctions between dead and alive, self and non-self are rejected, and if these concepts are admitted in terms of degree, what then are we? For the research and development in writing this chapter, decided to undergo some video gaming experiences. After getting hooked, to my horror, it was 6 in the morning, and I had lectures to prepare the next day. I was in a state of partial zombiehood with continuous responsive behavior to a visual stimulus, but a state of self-awareness that could hardly be described as present. The portrayal in Shaun of the Dead of the line of checkout assistants who mindlessly, if rhythmically, beep the purchases of customers, or of Shaun's best friend as he whiles away the hours playing video games, followed by a rapidly induced drunken stupor at the local pub, raises the terrifying possibility of our own general normal condition of zombiehood. That's a really interesting one, just about like how much we're like zombies now and like what the difference is. Shaun of the Dead is also really funny if you haven't seen it. Okay, and the last one is an article clearly from CNN. It's called Inside Zombie Brains, Sci-Fi Teaches Science. And again, you could just use these three and cite them, but you are looking for 2 other sources. So like if you want to use your 2 other sources and only use one of these, that's fine, but you will have to use at least one of these sources. An airborne virus is rapidly turning people into zombies. 2/3 of humanity has been wiped out. Scientists desperately look for a cure, even as their own brains deteriorate and the disease robs them of what we consider life. Relax, it's only fiction, at least for now. This apocalyptic scenario frames the new novel, The Zombie Autopsies, by Dr. Stephen Schlossman, a child psychiatrist who holds positions at Harvard Medical School and the Mass Gen Hospital McLean program in child psychiatry. You might not expect someone with those credentials to take zombies seriously, but it turns out the undead are a great way to explore real-world health issues, why certain nasty diseases can destroy the brain, how global pandemics create chaos and fear, and what should be done about people infected with a highly contagious and incurable lethal illness. This is really interesting to me, actually, just because this is the first time I've done this since we've been in a pandemic. So that you kind of have this whole new relevance here. One of the things zombie novels do is they bring up all these existential concerns that happen in medicine all the time. How do you define what's alive, says Schlossman, who's been known to bounce between zombie fan conventions and academic meetings. When is it appropriate to say someone's as good as dead, which is an awful, difficult decision? Yeah, like brain dead or something. But I guess that is probably like a big question sometimes with patients, like particularly having watched 16 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. Like I've seen that a few times, that like people are like, well, they're brain dead, so like shouldn't we just remove life support? They're as good as dead. But then other people are like, well, they're not dead yet, so like shouldn't we keep them alive and like maybe a miracle will happen or something like that. So like when is it appropriate to say someone's as good as dead? I think if it's your family member, you'd have a really hard time making that decision. So maybe you've seen Night of the Living Dead, read World War Z, or can't wait for the return of the AMC show The Walking Dead, but you probably don't know what differentiates the brains of humans and zombies, even though in one of the first episodes of Walking Dead, they went to the CDC and like the scientists walked them through the differences, and it was really interesting. First things first, how does the zombie disease infect its victims? Many stories in the genre talk about biting, but Schlossman's novel imagines a deliberately engineered virus whose particles can travel in the air and remain potent enough to jump from one person to another in a single sneeze. Now then to the brain eating. The zombie virus, as Schlossman describes it, basically gnaws the brain down to the amygdala, an almond-shaped structure responsible for the fight or flight response. The zombies always respond by fighting because another critical part of the brain, The ventromedial hypothalamus, which tells you when you've eaten enough, is broken. That's really interesting. The brain's frontal lobes, responsible for problem solving, are devoured by the virus, so zombies can't make complex decisions. Impairment in the cerebellum means they can't walk well either. Also, these humanoids have an unexplained predilection for eating human flesh. The zombies in this book are stumbling, shambling, hungry as hell, Schlossman said. Basically, they're like drunk crocodiles. They're not smart. They don't know who you are or what you are. So the bloodthirsty undead wander or crawl around, spreading a lethal illness ominously called ataxic neurodegenerative satiety deficiency syndrome, or ANSD for short. When something really terrifying comes along, especially in medicine or that has a medical feel to it, we always give it initials. That's the way we distance ourselves from it, Schlossman said. The virus has several brain-destroying components, one of which is a prion, meaning a protein like the one that causes mad cow disease. In real life, prions twist when they are in an acidic environment and become dangerous, Schlossman said. How our own environment has changed to make prions infectious, getting from the soil to the cows and mad cow disease, for instance, is still a mystery. Now, here's something to send chills up your spine. In Schlossman's world, airborne prions can be infectious, meaning mad cow disease and similar nervous system destroyers could theoretically spread just like the flu. Swiss and German researchers recently found that mice that had only 1 minute of exposure to aerosols containing prions died of mad cow disease, as reported in the journal PLOS Pathogens. A follow-up described in Journal of the American Medical Association showed the same for a related disease that's only found in animals called scrapie. Of course, these are mice in artificially controlled conditions in a laboratory, and humans do not exhale prions, but it could have implications for safety practices nonetheless. Like mad cow disease, the zombie disease Schlossman describes also progresses in acidic environments. In the book, a major corporation doles out implantable meters that infuse the body with chemicals to artificially lower acidity when it gets too high. But sadly, when acidity is too low, that also induces symptoms that mimic the zombie virus, so it's not a long-term solution. Everyone who gets exposed eventually succumbs, Schlossman said. As for the unknown component of the zombie disease that would help slowly zombifying researchers in their quest for a cure, that's up to the reader to figure out. And the clues are all in the book, Schlossman said. You can't ethically round up fellow survivors to kick some zombie butt unless the undead have technically died. And in Schlossman's book, a group of religious leaders get together and decide that when people reach stage 4 of the disease, they are basically dead. That, of course, permits zombie deanimation or killing. And how do you kill a zombie? Much of zombie fiction knocks out zombies through shots to the head. That, Schlossman said, is because the brainstem governs the most basic functioning, breathing and heartbeat. A zombie apocalypse disease like the one he describes probably wouldn't evolve on its own in the real world, he said. But as we've seen, individual symptoms of zombies do correspond to real ailments. And if they all came together, the disease would be creepily efficient at claiming bodies, Schlossman said. Bad news, folks. Even if people contracted a zombie virus through bites, the odds of our survival aren't great. A mathematician at the University of Ottawa named Robert Smith, who uses the question mark to distinguish himself from other Robert Smiths, of course, it's kind of funny, has calculated that if one zombie were introduced to a city of 500,000 people, after about 7 days, every human would either be dead or a zombie. We're in big, big trouble if this ever happens, Smith said. We can kill the zombies a bit, but we're not very good at killing zombies fundamentally. What tends to happen is the zombies just win. And the more they win, the more they keep winning because the disease spreads so rapidly. The best solution is a strategic attack rather than an every man for himself defense scenario, he said. It would take knowledge and intelligence, neither of which zombies have, to prevail. And before we finish this, I just wanted to point out that the first one and this one definitely have some stuff in common if you wanted to argue that one of the things you should consider most is like having a group, some sort of community, because every man for himself doesn't necessarily work. And this one is sort of saying that, like, scientifically, from the person who would probably know most about this fictional scenario, one person wouldn't be able to fight zombies on their own. Like, you have to have a strategy, and that has to include other people. In his day job, Smith models how real infectious diseases spread, COVID, but he's already reaped benefits from his work on zombies. For instance, while many mathematical models only deal with one complicated aspect of a situation at a time, he tackled two: zombie infection and zombie killing, when it came to speculating about outbreaks. When it came time for modeling of real-world human papillomavirus, HPV, then Smith felt equipped to handle many facets of it at the same time, such as heterosexual and homosexual transmission of HPV. Knowing what we knew from zombies allowed us to actually take on these more complicated models without fear, he said. Studying zombies is also a great way to get young people excited about science. Smith, who was on a zombie science panel with Schlossman through the National Academy of Sciences Science and Entertainment Exchange in 2009, has also seen math-phobic people get interested in mathematics by reading about his work with zombies. Interesting. There are insights that we gain from movies and from fiction, from fun popular culture stuff that actually can really help us think about the way that science works and also the way that science is communicated, he said. And as to why people like reading about zombies and watching zombies so much, Schlossman points to the impersonal nature of things in our society, from waiting in line at the DMV to being placed on hold on a call with a health insurance company, which can make you feel like a zombie. Think about all the situations in daily life where you sense a general lack of respect for humanity, and zombies make a little more sense. The zombies themselves represent a kind of commentary on modernity. Schlossman says, we're increasingly disconnected. That might be the current appeal. All right, so you've got your three sources here, three possible sources. You're gonna have to use at least one of them. I will say, when you're looking for your other sources, you don't have to worry as much on this one about like finding really reputable sources. Like if you use some .com sites, it'll be okay. I'd still just like be careful about what the site actually is and like if it's a reliable source, but like not all .com stuff is garbage. So it, you can be a little bit more creative with this one. The other thing I was gonna say, I finally remembered what it was that I know you have not all yet gotten your grades back from the last essay, the serial killer essay. And I should have finished grading those before I assigned you a new one, but I didn't because I'm just behind on grading. But it's my goal to have those graded by class time tomorrow. So while you have like 15 minutes to start getting a head start on this, and maybe like finding your other sources and stuff, I wouldn't expect you to like do a ton of writing today. And hopefully by the time you get feedback on your essays tomorrow, you can kind of take that feedback to heart and apply it to this essay once you start writing it. This is due March 31st, which is next Wednesday. I wanted to make sure to get it in before spring break so that that can also be a grade on quarter 3. And I still put, I always keep things available for a week because you can get some credit for it up to a week. Even though that week goes into spring break, I still kept it at a week. So, if you turn it in the Wednesday of spring break, you could still get 50%. I'm hoping that that's not an issue for anybody. I hope everybody turns it in on time. But since it's due a couple days before spring break, I just wanted to be clear about it. Okay, any questions about it? Anything you don't understand about the instructions? Okay. Well, I'm going to turn off my video and stuff, and you guys who are virtual, if you want to leave and start working on this on your own, you certainly can. And in that case, I will see y'all tomorrow.